We've talked a lot about the Miami Dolphins UDFA class and the Dolphins draft class in 2025, but I want to hone in on one specific UDFA. That is wide receiver from Arkansas, Andrew Armstrong, because I have the belief that he was a steal. He should have been drafted, and I think he is going to make a major case to make the Dolphins 53-man roster in late August. And if I'm going to be honest, to start this video, I want to be known, I'm stunned he went undrafted. And I think some of the chat could agree with me here, because when we were doing our live stream for day 3 of the draft, and if you were in that live show, appreciate you. You're a real one. But when it got to round 6, to round 7, the Dolphins had a pick in round 6, 2 picks in round 7. A lot of people in the chat were talking about going with Armstrong, the wide receiver. And they obviously went with Ollie Gordon, Quinn Ewers, and then Zeke Biggers. But Armstrong was certainly a player that we were talking a lot about during our live show. And the fact that Miami was able to scoop him up in undrafted free agency, absolute steal. We'll talk about him as a player and how I think he will fit on this Dolphins 53-man roster potentially. But before we get into that, make sure you're following us over on Instagram. At Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We post short-form content over there in between our videos on YouTube. And we actually did a short-form content video on Andrew Armstrong. So if you missed it, well, make sure you go follow us over on Instagram today. But it's hard not to like Andrew Armstrong, right? He led the SEC in receptions, 78, receiving yards, 1140. And yes, he didn't have the best production when it comes to touchdowns, but Arkansas's offense really didn't throw a lot when they got inside the 10, the 5-yard line. And another part that I really like about him, he does not drop the football. One of the lowest drop percentages in the entire Power 5, or I guess Power 4 nowadays, in college football over the last season, and then when he was playing at Texas A&M Commerce prior to transferring to Arkansas. And how about this? PFF isn't the end-all be-all, but he was the only wide receiver in college football in the year 2024 to have a receiving grade 80+ against man coverage and zone coverage. Now, I will say against man coverage, he isn't the greatest separator, which is a negative that we'll talk about later on. But when PFF has him as the only wide receiver with an 80 grade against man and zone, the numbers keep on coming in, and it just becomes more and more like, how in the world did he go undrafted? Because it's not like he's in someone who's not an athlete, and that won't transition to the next level, because it should. He had an 8.56 RAS. He is about 6'4". He is about 200, which, yeah, he can upgrade that frame a little bit, but he's 6'4". He ran a 4.5 140, which, although it's graded out as a 7.29, I think that's way underselling it, because a 4.5 at 6'4" is impressive as hell in my opinion. And you see his explosion grade both in the 8s, so that is even very good. The shuttle also pretty good as well with an 8.03. This, take away the production, take away the tape. When you just talk about what type of player Miami could use on their wide receiver depth chart, Andrew Armstrong is that. Because as we consistently talk about the wide receivers that Miami have on the roster, they only have 4 guys guaranteed to make the roster. And it's the 4 pictures you see. They signed Nic Westbrook-Ikhine in free agency. Malik Washington is their main kick returner / punt returner / a solid slot wide receiver. Waddle and Tyreek Hill are the big kahunas. Those are the only 4 guaranteed to be on the roster. The extra 5th spot or 6th spot is up for grabs. And yeah, Westbrook-Ikhine is 6'2", 211. He adds nice size to your room. But prior to him, you had nobody with size. Waddle 5'11", Hill 5'10", Malik 5'7", 5'8". So Armstrong coming in, being about 6'4", with a good length and catch radius to him, makes him an ideal candidate to make this roster. And I need you to predict it for me. Does Andrew Armstrong make the 53-man roster for the Fins in late August, prior to September? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I believe he does. I have been very high on Armstrong ever since I looked deeper into the UDFA players that Miami signed. And as I mentioned in the first portion of this video, I expected him to be drafted. And honestly, so did all the metrics. How about this? I wanted to showcase this. This thing's awesome. I found a chart when I was doing some research on Armstrong and other draft wide receivers of college career production. He played 5 years, a lot of college football, versus his athleticism, his RAS traits. Well, look at where Andrew Armstrong is. And you might have to zoom in on YouTube right now, but I tried circling it. You have the 4 quadrants: the risky picks, the high floor picks, the players you want to target, and then the banking on the athletic upside. Well, Andrew Armstrong, out of Arkansas, is right in that beautiful top right quadrant of targets. So he matches high production in his college career, as well as having the athletic traits in the broad jump, the vertical, the 40, the size. Like, his athleticism and production is very, very good. And I don't want to make this seem like he is going to be a no-doubt star, but here are some of the 5 players that kind of had a similar production and athleticism mesh point, right? So in that top right quadrant at the same exact radius as Andrew Armstrong are players that have not had success in the NFL, but were drafted significantly higher. And that's the point of all this, right? Kevin White, top 10 pick, obviously didn't pan out. Kadarius Toney, number 20 overall, obviously didn't work out. Khalil Shakir in the 5th round, yeah, that's pretty good. Jaden Higgins, who was in this draft class, got selected in the first 3 picks of the 2nd round by the Houston Texans. And Elijah Moore. Moore and Higgins and Shakir were the 3 players closely linked to the production athleticism mesh point alongside Andrew Armstrong in a second, 5th round pick. So the fact that you're getting a player that has similar production athleticism traits as these 5 guys who all went in the first 5 rounds, that makes it more stunning that Armstrong went undrafted. And when you look at the Chat Sports rankings and the kind of scouting, if you will, Chat Sports had him projected as a mid to late 6th round pick. So we're not trying to claim that he should have been some 4th, 5th rounder. No, he was a late day 3 guy, and there are reasons to that, which we'll get into. But we here at Chat Sports believe he absolutely should have been drafted. He was a top 200 guy on our big board. So the fact Miami got him undrafted just continues to make my point that he's an absolute steal. And I got more statistics to show, which could fire up the Fins fans. But this is why you subscribe to Dolphins Today, because we do everything: news, rumors, live shows. We break down players in this roster, and we aren't silly. We know what we're talking around over here. So hit that sub button. Let's get to 70K subscribers ASAP. Next up, I wanted to look at Andrew Armstrong and his route running ability. So this is his last season route percentage at Arkansas. Green, good. Yellow, red, bad. So you see most of what he did last season was in the intermediate route range, right? 26.5% of his routes were slants, 17.5% curls, 6.2 comebacks, and 15.6 dig routes. So he didn't run a lot of posts, didn't run a lot of nines, corners, outs. He mostly worked over the middle of the football field. And that helped his quarterback be able to find him with that 6'4" and that large catch radius. So that is the route tree that he performed the most at. Now let's look at what his success rate per route were. There's a lot of green here, man, and it's impressive as hell. So he ran slants the most last year, but he was also uberly successful at it. 83.8% success rate, 84.4% curl success rate, 85% dig rate, 87.5% comeback rate. So he is really good in the intermediate, really good over the middle of the football field, and he actually excelled at corner routes as well, 66.7% corner rate. So he struggles in the deep part of the football field, running post and 9 routes, if you will. But in the intermediate, over the middle of the field, he was dominant for that Razorback offense last season. And I can't wait to see him work with Zach Wilson, Tua, and Quinn Ewers in the preseason and the training camp portion. But I really like what Armstrong brings to the table as a route runner. Now let's continue to look at his scouting profile, because when you look at him, he has great hands. Simply does not drop the football. He had 4 drops last season in the SEC for Arkansas. For a year prior, only 2 drops. So he does not drop the football, man. And something he always does really well, makes catches in a contested area, high points the football, catches it with his hands. It goes back to great hands, that first positive. He has to be fearless going over the middle of the football field as much as you saw last season with his route and his success rate. He had a 62.1% contested catch percentage last season, 18 of 29. Very, very good. And I mentioned the speed for his size, 4'5", 140, 4'6", But as much as we've praised Andrew Armstrong in this video, I want to make it clear. He's not a perfect prospect. No one is. And that's the reason why he went undrafted. Negative for Armstrong. He's an older player. He's already 25. Spent 4 seasons at Texas A&M Commerce. Was not productive in the first 3 seasons in all regards. Balled out in his final year, which allowed him to get transferred to an SEC team, but he continued that production. I don't know what clicked for Armstrong, but it got him a spot on a Dolphins roster. He has never played special teams. I think that is a negative because when you are a UDFA trying to make the football team, yeah, you play your position, but the easiest way to make the 53-man and guarantee a roster spot is making plays on special teams. He has never done that. So that is going to be something that he needs to learn if he wants to potentially find a spot. And when it comes to him actually playing the wide receiver position, one thing he does kind of lack a little bit is creating separation. I think he really struggles in man coverage at times when a corner is all over him and physical with him, because what Armstrong succeeds in is over the middle of the football field, using his big catch radius, his frame, to catch the ball with his hands, and you see him do that in a contested catch situation. But if a physical corner is on him and is able to meet him at the catch point, well, that's where he struggles a bit to create separation. Good speed in a flat line, but is he able to create that speed in his route running? That's the question that we have to ask Armstrong and ourselves. Round out the conversation here in a second, but make sure you get your Miami Dolphins jerseys today. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey is the link. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. You can get Kenneth Grant, can get Jonas Savvy-Inaya, get Tyreek Hill, get Jaylen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Phillips, every player you can possibly want, any type of size, any type of jersey. Get yours today. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. So I said I believe that Andrew Armstrong makes the Dolphins 53-man roster. It's unclear about how many Dolphins wide receivers will be kept on the 53-man. Last year they kept 5. Some teams keep 6. It is very much on the air. I think there's 4 guaranteed guys, like I mentioned earlier: Tyreek, Jaylen, Malik, and Nic Westbrook-Ikhine. The 5th spot is very much up for grabs. If the Dolphins keep 6, I think Andrew Armstrong's a lock. I do. I think he would be able to fit in there, and I would give Taj Washington the 6th spot, the 7th-round pick from 2024 out of USC. If the Dolphins keep 5, I still think Armstrong will make the team, but it will be a little bit more dicey, and I think that lack of special teams experience is what could potentially hurt Andrew Armstrong. But I do want to make note of this as well. The Dolphins have had a history with keeping UDFAs. Over the last 10 years, 23 UDFAs have made the Dolphins 53-man roster in their first year. If you do the math, real quick, sharp over here, that's 2.3 UDFAs a year. So you could make the safe assumption that there would likely be 2 or 3 players from the 16 UDFA class that Miami signed that makes the team. I'm willing to bank Armstrong as one of them. Now, when you look at the UDFA successes, it actually has mostly been in the secondary for Miami. Kader Kohou is the biggest UDFA success with the Dolphins, obviously. He's still on the roster, and he's still slated to have one of the largest roles in the secondary for Miami this upcoming year. You've also seen success with Nick Needham. You've seen success with Storm Duck, a UDFA from last year, who is still in the mix to get some playing time for this Dolphins secondary. So I would expect 2 or 3 UDFAs at minimum to be on this Dolphins 53-man roster. They've had more success on the defensive side of the ball, but I like what Armstrong brings to the table, and I think he's ultimately going to be one of those 2 or 3 guys. I need you to make the prediction for me, though. How many UDFAs make the Dolphins 53-man roster? At least 2 should be one of your answers. So 2, 3, 4, whatever you guys think. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll go bold. I think the Dolphins keep 4 UDFAs, which wouldn't be surprising, by the way, if they've done that, kept 4 UDFAs multiple times over the last 10 years, 2019, I believe 2015, a couple other years as well. I think Armstrong's one of them. If I had to bet on 3 others, I'd go Jalen Conyers, the tight end from Texas Tech. I think he could beat out a Julian Hill. Maybe the Dolphins keep 4 tight ends, and it is Conyers, Hill, Jonnu, and Pharaoh Brown. I like John Saunders Jr. Now, this one's dicey, but I like him as a player. Out of the 4 players here, I think Saunders Jr. is the least likely. And then I like B.J. Adams from Central Florida, man. I think he could beat out Ethan Bonner, a former UDFA as well. Maybe he beats out Storm Duck. Either way, I like what B.J. Adams brings in terms of physicality, coverage, as well as his ability to make plays on the ball. So these are the 4 UDFAs that I think are going to make the 53-man roster. It's a lot more than some others might project, but I'll be bold. I'll do it. I don't care. And throughout this offseason, we'll have you covered with Dolphins content. And when we're in August, breaking down preseason, we'll have the full 53-man roster when it's announced in late August. So hit that sub button and stay locked in all offseason long with the Dolphins Today.